On this Friday afternoon, the 18th of October. Good afternoon. It is a sunny 64 degrees in Richland Center at 12:09. For WRCO News, I'm Joanne Krulotz. High winds paired with drought conditions are taking over the state today, putting our area in a fire danger. This means that even a cigarette butt tossed into the grass or woods could start a wildfire. Here's Amy Penn with the Wisconsin DNR.
Right now, we're just happen to be at a time where we don't have enough rain. So just sort of a little bit of a dry spell. So that's really what's going on right now, is it's a dry spell. This week, we actually have had a couple fires started from mowing operations, so it has to be pretty dry before that can cause a wildfire. So it's kind of where we are. Got dry leaves, the things are drying out in the woods, but before the snow falls, there's this period again where we tend to have elevated fires, whether that's from people burning debris or warming fires when hunting. Using equipment. There are a lot of causes, but number one cause is debris burning. The second cause is usually equipment.
Winds are gusting up to 30 miles per hour and can rapidly spread a spark. NOAA's Climate Prediction Center reports there is a 60% chance that a weak La Nina will develop this autumn and could last until March. La Nina is part of a natural climate cycle that can cause extreme weather across the planet. Northern parts of South America could see more rain than usual. Southern regions of the U.S. and parts of Mexico could be drier than average. And the northern tier of the U.S. and southern Canada could be wetter than average. Tonight is the Wisconsin Senate debate between Democratic Senator Tammy Baldwin and Republican challenger Eric Hovde. Both candidates have been making multiple appearances across the state in recent days. With Baldwin in western Wisconsin for several stops early in the week, it is one of the most expensive races for U.S. Senate in the country, with polls showing the race getting closer as November approaches. You can listen to tonight's debate at 7 on the free Civic Media app and several other stations in the network. Vice President Kamala Harris brought her presidential campaign back to Wisconsin Thursday with stops on 3 college campuses. Israel's war in the Mideast intersected with presidential politics in Milwaukee at UW-Milwaukee, where Harris commented on the killing of Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar in the Israeli military. She said the United States, Israel, and the entire world are better off, and said Sinwar was responsible for the killing of thousands of innocent people. Protesters opposing U.S. support of Israel's war in Gaza were outside the UWM student union. There were no reports of any arrest, and Harris moved on to campaign events in La Crosse and Green Bay. In La Crosse, Harris was back to touting her plans for her presidency if elected, saying she'll offer a leg up for young Americans and first-time homeowners. She also called out Donald Trump for being an unserious candidate and accused him of planning to cut social services for Americans. She also urged people to register to vote. In Manitowoc County, charges are filed in the death of 3-year-old Elijah Vu. During a brief Thursday press conference, District Attorney Jacqueline Lebray detailed the charges against the little boy's mother, Katrina Bauer, and her boyfriend Jesse Vang. Vang is being charged with physical abuse of a child, repeated acts causing death, hiding a corpse, and obstructing an officer. Katrina Bauer is being charged with chronic neglect of a child, consequences of death, child neglect, and obstructing an officer. A bail hearing is scheduled for Friday afternoon. Skeletal remains found last month were confirmed to be those of Elijah, who went missing from Vang's Two Rivers apartment in February. The DA also asked that the media and the public respect the privacy of Elijah's family as they navigate this heartbreaking time. The project team conducted the first bridge demolition blast yesterday morning of the old Wisconsin 130-133 bridge in Lone Rock. Crews will continue removing the bridges and excavating the old roadway corridor the next several weeks. Trucks will continue to enter and exit the work zone at the Wisconsin 130 Long Island staging area access. Please take caution when driving through the work zone. The north channel of the river remains open. The south channel remains closed. Once crews remove the southernmost steel truss from the river, the south channel will be opened and the north channel will be closed for bridge demolition. This is planned to happen in the next 1 to 2 weeks. The Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources invites the public to participate in candlelight events this fall and experience state-managed properties in a new light. State parks, forests, trails, and recreation areas provide the perfect backdrop for enjoying autumn in Wisconsin, especially at night. This fall's candlelight events are underway and will be held through November 2nd. Candlelight hikes are held on trails illuminated by candles, torches, or similar light sources. Hikes may be self-guided or led by park staff or knowledgeable volunteers. Trail length and surface types can vary. However, visitors of all experience levels are encouraged to attend. Most events include additional activities such as pumpkin carving, campfires, and other family-friendly entertainment. Hot chocolate, cider, and other refreshments will be available for sale or by donation. Some events will have grills for cooking food or fires for roasting marshmallows. Mirror Lake State Park will host a Halloween candlelight mystery hike Saturday, and a hike at Governor Nelson State Park will be held Friday, October 25th. A full list of fall candlelight hikes can be found on the DNR's events calendar. The Deke Slayton Memorial Space and Bicycle Museum in Sparta will host Sharing Space with Deke featuring Hoot Gibson. Gibson was hired as an astronaut in 1978, the first class not selected by Deke Slayton in 20 years. During his 18-year career at NASA, he flew 5 missions, 4 of them as mission commander aboard the space shuttles Challenger, Columbia, Atlantis, and Endeavour. His final space flight was the first mission to rendezvous and dock with the Russian space station Mir in 1995. Hoot also participated in Formula One airplane racing, often seen Deke racing as well. Sharing Space with Deke, a live virtual conversation with astronaut Hoot Gibson, will be held Sunday from 3 to 4. You may attend in person at the Deke Slayton Memorial Space and Bicycle Museum or via Zoom. The cost to attend is $10. Tickets may be purchased at the museum or online at dekeslaytonmuseum.org. Dane County will host the final of 4 walks to defeat ALS that have taken place across Wisconsin. ALS Association Development Director Aaron Hill says the walks are important to the ALS community. Hill says Wisconsin, an incredibly generous place, and walks in Milwaukee, La Crosse, and the Northeast have been a success. Sunday's walk takes place in Fitchburg. More information is available on walktodefeatals.org. In celebration of the 75th anniversary of WRCO going on the air, Richland County Historical Society President Ken Thied has a special program.
Special Richland County Historical Society History Moment. This is for today, October 18th, 2024. Here's the rest of the story. 5 years ago, Ron Fruit gave a presentation to Arch, ancestors of Richland County Hills, at the Brewer Library on 70 years of WRCO radio. Now, 5 years later, WRCO Radio is celebrating 75 years on the air. The question is to be asked, how does someone pay tribute to an icon like WRCO Radio for 75 years in our area and community, dating back to October 18th, 1949? It was 2 minutes after 12 noon that AM 1450 signed on the air. The first voice you heard was that of Robert Bodden. So many voices have graced the airwaves since, it would be difficult to name them all. In addition, so many individuals have played significant roles behind the mic with their key jobs and tasks for the station. To all these people, a sincere appreciation for their contributions in making WRCO Radio what it is today. Yet it would be important in covering recent history to recognize 2 such individuals for their roles that they have made with WRCO Radio. They would be most noted by many who listen to the radio for a 10-minute time slot from 7:20 to 7:30 a.m. every weekday morning for nearly 3 decades. It would be Ron and Phil in the morning. A simple, usually unscripted, segment when these two gentlemen simply put everyone at ease, talking about anything that came to mind, and the public enjoyed these precious moments. It gave you a good feeling inside and started off your day on a positive note. First to be mentioned would be Phil Nee, who began at WRCO Radio in 1986. With his wit and creativity from the latter 1980s to becoming the long-time early morning sign-on, running until midday as the on-air personality. As well, countless sports broadcasts of all types. And of course, the classic Saturday evening program, Those Were the Days. And now also, Phil serves as the station manager for WRCE. As it was just a few years ago, he took over following the sale of the station by Ron and Beth Fruit of Fruit Broadcasting, LLC, for them having been co-owners since 1994. Ron had his start in radio while still in high school at Richland Center and went on to develop a strong working relationship with partner Peter Athanas. Mr. Athanas was key in those early years for his leadership role with WRCO Radio. The first owner of WRCO Radio dates back to 1949, who was then Arthur Overgaard from Elroy, Wisconsin, which for the O in WRCO stands for Overgaard. A brief time in the 1960s, a local businessman, Hala Peebles, owned the station. And then in 1967, he would sell to the Moore family from Milwaukee. Along with the Athanas family, WRCO would grow. Secondly, of notoriety, would be Mr. Ron Fruit, who genuinely, as the key individual that trademarked WRCO, his to be remembered fondly for interviewing skills, putting guests at ease in front of the microphone, whether it be on the morning show or from a remote location. Renowned were his speaking skills, his credits being involved in forensics in high school as a key part to his success. Ron and Beth Fruit developed WRCO over the past 3 decades into what would be quoted directly from Ron Fruit's Broadcasting Hall of Fame recognition, profiling it as this, and I quote, "One of the strongest examples of local radio in the entire nation," end quote. That, of course, was referring to WRCO Radio. A few years ago, Civic Media Incorporated, which promotes a talk format, purchased WRCO Radio, which provides a classic hits format, and its WRCO FM as a full-service, country-centered station with a blend of country favorites. For many years, WRCO will be remembered for their slogan, Country and Community, with the latter defining WRCO. It is community, truly being the integral key component to the success of this local southwestern Wisconsin radio station. Arguably, many will recall back in 2007, the flooding Pine River, and how that singular, significant event served as a prime example for WRCO Radio. What it was about. This, of course, brought about the eventual move from 211 Bowman Drive on southeast portion of the city, as historic flooding would once again change the landscape. The eventual move would be to where the station is located now on Highway 14 East next to Simpson Tractor. Although the station is no longer located there at 2111, it can still be found as a primary landline communication by telephone. Not just a coincidence, because that landline number has been the long-time number for WRCO Radio at 647-2111. And of course, you'll remember calling trivia on a regular basis at 647-4155. Still, it was that a move was necessary, and this time a temporary location in downtown Richland Center, next to the Richland County Bank, while sharing half the building with a nonprofit, Walk with Grace, for what would be about a year. And this is how the building that now houses Wallace, Cooper, and Elliott Insurance, north of the courthouse, served WRCO Radio and the community. Community. This is the direct connection that WRCO Radio has with Richland County and the greater surrounding area. It was not just the continued broadcast during that emergency. It's so much more. What is it rather than? Well, it's regular programming. It's things like birthdays and anniversaries at 7:30 in the morning. It's the obituaries at noon that you listen to for the details. If you're an early riser, you'll acknowledge the daily aerobic polka that's part of the long-running features at about 5:15 a.m. From the weekday morning show at 9 o'clock to the Saturday morning's prime mover running from 8:30 to 10. This is community. There are those that cherished listening to Ray Schrader for over 40 years on his classic Saturday afternoon program, Reminiscing with Ray. Who can forget the annual holiday tunes transformed from a yearly overview of all of the radio station personalities that year? Everything from a wide variety of local sports broadcasts and area events with programs that annually would take place, like Walk with Grace or the Wisconsin High School Rodeo that was matched up with June Dairy Days. And not too long ago, for nearly 2 decades, it was Star Spangled Celebration. Certainly listening to the Packers, the Brewers, the Badgers, and if you're old enough, you'll even remember when the Braves baseball was on the air. That early connection was WRCO Radio. From a humble beginning in 1949 with AM programming on frequency 1450 to August of 1965 when an FM 100.9 was added, and now, most recently, 107.7, which provides a translator station for the AM dial and mimics the programming on 1450. Travel back with me, if you will, to 2111 Bowman Drive. Can you visualize that white block brick building that was there for so many years? The parking lot out in front. A massive tower to the east of that building that's still there today. If those memories you can recall when you drove by the station, the building that once was WRCO Radio is now gone. Still, you can see the many varieties of vehicles that once were parked out in front. Of course, that was all part of the business process, like the remote broadcasts. And who can forget the colorful AMC Gremlin hatchbacks carrying the ABC logo along with WRCO Radio on the door panels. Later, WRCO would become an affiliate with CBS, but the building remained the same. Oh, not quite the same because there were some additions, of course. You could recall walking into the building with the front entrance, and as you walked in the entryway, you could have visualized that lobby with a half semicircular counter. If you had the opportunity to walk to the back and see the control room, you would pass through a massive shelving, archived records in their vinyl library. Off to the left, there were the office desks. They were there leading you to Studio A, where the interviews would take place. And of course, the all-important Studio B, where the on-the-air broadcasts were orchestrated. In those early years, it was commonly a half-hour community-oriented program that aired. Later, though, perhaps you'll remember that there were some programs like, say, Uncle Bob's Children's Program. That dates back to 1949. Or can you still hear the classic clip from one of the advertisements by Orly Baker for the Boscobel State Bank? Well, time is up for now. The countless advertisements from local businesses with jingles and catchphrases that still ring in your memory. That is WRCO Radio. On a personal note, to close out this special edition of a Richland County Historical Society History Moment, I want to give credit and a genuine thank you to Mr. Ron Fruit, who 3 years ago requested from me a weekly local history story. It could run from, say, 3 to 5 minutes, he said, and with each week a new topic of significance and memories. Could we do something like Paul Harvey, he said, where he used to say the rest of the story? Well, to sign off from this, a very special segment, recognizing 75 years of WRCO radio. As Paul Harvey would famously say, good day.